Welcome to Chassidus in the morning, 15 minutes. The Maamer from Simple Chassidus, Matza Zu. Let's get straight into it. So just a quick summary. I think we're after Eis Gimel. It's basically finished. It's finished tomorrow for sure. And I figure out what we're going to do next week. So basically it starts like this. We say Matza Zu, this matzah that we eat is because the matzah that the Yidden took out of Mitzrayim didn't have time to rise. So the question is asked that seemingly we're eating the matzah because the Jewish people commanded to Mitzrayim to eat matzah with the Korban Pesach. So we went to explain that there's two types of matzah. There's a matzah before Chatzos, which is when they had the Korban Pesach, which is without a vav and had to guard it, so it shouldn't become chametz. And then you had after Chatzos, after the God revealed himself, and that matzah is written with a vav. And it's also didn't have to guard it, because it says kilei chametz because it didn't become chametz, implying that it's by itself didn't become chametz. So we said essentially that once before God reveals himself, it's very easy. Before you have revelation of godliness, it's very easy to get confused and have a feeling of God not being in the world and not being in your life in separateness. Whereas after God reveals himself, so then it's much harder to have that, make that mistake. And that's why, and that's what the vav represents, God revealing himself. And that's also why kilei chametz, it doesn't become chametz, is the lack of worry needed because of the revelation. But then we added, that's all from the Alter Rebbe, and the Rebbe added an even deeper point. And so essentially what we're saying, why do we eat them? Why the matzah that we say on the night of Pesach, the matzah we eat is because it didn't have time, suppose it didn't have time to rise, even though that's not seemingly the style of matzah we're eating. But he's saying it is because the matzah we eat today is greater, is on that higher level matzah. And we said, why? Because we're a year full of Torah mitzvahs, like the Yidden after the Matan Torah. So we said to not understand this, we can understand it's like the difference between Pesach and Shavuos. By Pesach, the Yidden didn't do any avodah. Which is sort of representative like the matzah before Chatzos. That by Pesach, it was all God. We had maybe 2 mitzvahs, but that's, we were pretty bare and naked in regards to mitzvahs. Whereas after, by Shavuos, by Matan Torah, when the Yidden worked on themselves 49 days, they're able to reach the 50th level. And we discussed that it's not just the lower part of the 50th level, the lower level of Kesser, but even the higher level of Kesser, the highest level in the 50th, the level of the 50th, which is, so to speak, not connected to the 49 levels before it. But through our Avodah, we're able to reach this level. And so too, through our Avodah throughout the year, and Chanas for Pesach, that's able to get us to be able to reach this 50th level, this highest level. And that's why our matzah is nowadays is greater than even the greater version of matzah back then. Yeah, and ultimately it's because, meaning why is the avodah aspect so important? Because that makes you a kli, a vessel for it. It makes you be able to have it long lasting. Like anything that's valuable, or that sticks with you, it's when you put in the effort. It's like I had a friend that he was learning in Israeli yeshiva, and he was South African, and he complained that would learn Gemara, let's say Begirsa, which is like try to learn more quickly. They could run through it because it was, it's in the, at least it's spelt in the same language. Not like, he's English speaking, reading Aramaic, which is in Hebrew, like Hebrew letters, whereas over there, they're all, it's Hebrew, Lashon, Hebrew. So he complained to these mashpia that it's so, like, it's sort of speak unfair that I think you can rush through it, and I don't go as fast. So he goes, it's true that maybe you can't read it as fast because it's not like your first language, even though Aramaic is not the first, it's not Hebrew, but it's close enough. But even though you go slower, you get it more. And because he had to put in more effort, he was able to internalize it more. And this is sort of, I think, maybe one of the reasons why you have a chavrusa. Because when you learn by yourself, you don't necessarily put in the effort, not because you don't want to, because you already know it. You don't like when you have chavrusa, you have to speak it out with a chavrusa, and you have to put in the toil, the effort, and that makes you understand it. And so, whereas if you by yourself, you don't have that. So if you by yourself, you like Pesach. Whereas if you work with it, you have a chavrusa, or you can pretend to have a chavrusa, and you talk things out. So then it's like Shavuos. So I think we're up to page 12. Yeah. So we said, so I'll go from here. Early in the Maamer, in the middle of the page, early in the Maamer, we explained, based on the teaching of Alter Rebbe, and Tagada relates to our matzah to the post-midnight matzah from the original Pesach, to teach us that our matzah also has the advantage of the post-midnight matzah. So I was going to ask a question over here, and it's a little bit, hold on to your hats, because it's a little bit hard to explain, but it's pretty sound logic. So what did we say in the beginning, or sort of what we brought down from the Alter Rebbe, is that our matzah that we're eating today, or I'm just meaning Pesach, pre-midnight, is like the matzah they ate post-midnight, the matzah with the revelation of godliness, with the vav. And that's why we say the matzah we eat is because of the post-midnight matzah, even though seemingly the time-wise it should be the pre-midnight matzah we should be referring to, because we were commanded to, but we're saying it's the post-midnight because it more relates to that, because we're after a revelation. The Rebbe was pushing this even more, that we're after the revelation of Har Sinai, and we do all Aveda throughout the year, and we do all these mitzvahs, so we're able to receive a lot more. So that's why we say the matzah we eat now is because of the post-midnight matzah. But when I have a question on this. However, based on the additional explanation of the Rebbe in the previous paragraphs, our answer needs further clarification. Meaning the Rebbe's answer, which was that it's not just the revelation, it's after Har Sinai, which means after a year full of Torah mitzvahs. So based on the explanation above, our matzah is even higher than the post-midnight matzah, which the Jews ate during the original Pesach, because it is a post-giving of the Torah matzah. Our matzah we eat today, so we're saying it's comparable to the matzah after midnight, after God revealed himself. But the Rebbe's whole explanation is that our matzah is even greater, because our matzah is after a year full of Aveda, where you reach the 50th level. It's like our matzah is like Shavuos versus that matzah is like Pesach. So then how are we saying the matzah we eat is like the post-midnight matzah, if the post-midnight matzah is not comparable? The reason why we didn't use the original pre-midnight matzah was because we said it's not really relatable to our matzah, because our matzah is much closer, it's much more, is like the post-midnight matzah after God revealed himself. But after the Rebbe explained to us that it's not even comparable to that, it's even greater than that, because it's after a year full of Aveda. So then why are we comparing it to that matzah? We should say our matzah is totally different or something. It doesn't relate to any of these levels. So yeah. So if so, how can we say that how can the Gada compare our superior matzah to the automatic, so to speak, matzah which didn't have time to rise, meaning automatic without any avodah? We're comparing the two different things, because what we end up saying was that there's three levels of matzah. There's a matzah before midnight without God's revelation. There's a matzah after midnight with God's revelation, but with God's revelation, but without avodah. And then there's the matzah after the giving of the Torah, which is revelation and effort. And if ours is that level, that third highest level, so how can we compare ours to the second level? So the Rebbe provides a basic answer. True, our matzah is superior to the post-midnight matzah, which the Jews ate after they left Mitzrayim. So it is much greater. But, however, the mitzvah of telling the story of how we left Mitzrayim requires us to discuss the events as they happened at that time. Meaning, yeah, it's true, our matzah is much greater, but the whole purpose of the Seder is talking about what happened then, how it happened then. So therefore, pointing out that our current day matzah is higher than the original Pesach matzah wouldn't fit the purpose of the Haggadah. The Haggadah is not meant to be talking about our matzah now. We're talking about what happened then. This is why the Haggadah limits its comments to comparing our matzah to the original matzah, and doesn't describe any unique qualities that our matzah has which weren't present during the first Pesach. And that's why it doesn't tell us that we should know like in brackets by a side point, our matzah we eat today is much greater than all of those matzahs. Because that's not the point of the Haggadah. The Haggadah is not talking about now, it's talking about back then. And what happened then, we have to remind us what happened then, and we have to see ourselves as leaving Egypt, but it's all about what happened in Egypt. So that provides a deeper, more fundamental answer. So essentially, just to recap the answer, is that, the question is, if our matzah is so superior to the matzah that they had in Mitzrayim, so why are we comparing it? If our matzah is on the highest level, the third level, how can we compare it to the second level, which is matzah with revelation, but without the avodah? Ours is with avodah as well. So he said, because we're not trying to show about how matzah we eat today. The whole purpose of that God is to talk about what happened then. What happened then is they had matzah, but really it doesn't fully answer it, because if we're going to talk about it as it was then, so why not compare it to the pre-midnight matzah, the first level, the lowest level? But he's going to give another answer and explain it. The Rebbe provides a deeper, more fundamental answer. That God tells us that if the Holy One, blessed be He, hadn't taken us out of Mitzrayim, we and our children and our children's children would still be enslaved to Pari Mitzrayim. Because on our own, we would still be slaves to Pari Mitzrayim. So it says in Haggadah, Kadosh Baruch Hu has Mitzrayim, Hashem would have taken us out of Mitzrayim, Anu, Vanenu, Vnei, us, our children would all be stuck in Mitzrayim. So the reason why we left Egypt wasn't because of our own effort, it was because God took us out. And the only reason why we aren't slaves is because Hashem took us out. This means that essentially we, independently, so to speak, independent of God, are still on the level where we are slaves to Pari Mitzrayim. This is especially true on the night of Pesach, when we relive the Geula of Mitzrayim. So what do we, when we're reliving what happened in Mitzrayim, we have to appreciate that it doesn't make sense talking about a superior matzah, because the celebration essentially is that because Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, that's why we are free today. So we're not free independent of ourselves, we're free because of Hashem's helping us. So therefore, we'll just finish up here. Therefore, even though we live after the Geula of Mitzrayim and after the giving of the Torah, we can still relate to the state that the Jews were in at the point in time, because we on our own are potentially still in that state. So that's why we can talk about the matzah as it was back then, because essentially we are slaves. The reason why we're not slaves is not because we did something special, it's because Hashem did something special. So in potential, we have a relationship to the Yidden back there in Mitzrayim before they were revealed, before Hashem came and redeemed them. And since we are still potentially in this state, we describe our matzah as it relates to the Jews, that they were there in that actual state. But, and we'll continue this tomorrow, but there's one problem with this answer. So if we're saying that essentially we're still slaves in Egypt, independent of God, and so therefore we can relate to the Yidden as they were in Mitzrayim, so then why are we saying that matzah that we eat is the matzah that's after midnight? Really, that if we're going to say that we're really connected to the Yidden now in Mitzrayim, and we're still slaves if not for God, so then why aren't we talking about the original matzah, the first level, the matzah before Chatzos, without the vav, has to be guarded, to be answered tomorrow.